Welcome to Finding Alignment, where we will be having conversations on business, wellness, and relationships for living a more aligned life. I'm your host, Megan Romine, real estate professional, lifelong learner, and speaker. Each time I'm in the studio, I sit down with entrepreneurs, best-selling authors, and everyday high achievers to unpack the habits, boundaries, and mindset shifts that fuel sustainable success. Whether you're growing a business, nurturing relationships, or simply protecting your peace, this show is here to help you take one aligned step forward. Let's dive in. We're so excited today. We have best-selling author, rock star, realtor, to the stars, Jordan Cohen. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's my honor to be on your podcast, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I have so many questions, but first, can you start off for our guests? Can you just tell us a little bit about your background?
Full-time realtor. Been a realtor for 34 years. I'm proud to say I'm the top number one RE/MAX agent in the world 7 times, and there's 144,000 of us. So I'm very proud and grateful for that. I've been doing it full time for a long time, and I'm a very aggressive realtor, very pro marketing and exposure and prospecting, and it's been a good life.
Yeah, and then you
I don't know
wrote
if that answers your question. I know
that definitely.
Expecting that, so I don't. That was a shitty answer, so I apologize for that.
That definitely helps. And also, too, you have Agent's Edge, which is a national best-selling book. And, I originally found you from reading your book, and I was just so enthralled with how much value that you added to this book and that you're really helping agents and helping others. And I think that's just amazing to be able to give back like that. And were you inspired one day? Did you just wake up one day and say, I'm going to write a book, or was it something that you'd been thinking about for a while?
No, I wasn't thinking at all. I had a client at the time, was a movie agent with Creative Artists Agency, CAA, and I was selling him a home, and he goes, "Hey man," he goes, "you're really good at this, man. Is it true you're the top RE/MAX guy in the world?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "You ever thought about writing a book?" I go, "No, I never thought about that." And he goes, "Listen, can I connect you with our literary agent, one of our literary agents, and have a conversation with him?" And I said, "Oh man, of course, it'd be really cool." So I met with the literary agent on Zoom, and he heard my story and what I could write a book about, and said he'd love to represent me. So that was a huge win for me because, like you, I'm an agent. I'm a real estate agent. So I'm always on this side of the table. So it's kind of cool, having somebody represent me, And so then you write your like a 3-page little thing about it, and you outline your chapters. And then he packaged that and sent it to all the publishers. And I had multiple offers from a whole bunch of publishers. And I chose HarperCollins because it was a big name and they were super cool when they were talking to me about it. So I went with HarperCollins and wrote a cool book.
Amazing. And it just brings so much value to so many people. And I know agents on my team, read the book. We hear about it all the time. I just think it's so amazing. And is it true that in your real estate career that you first started off selling maybe like more regular price ranges, and then you decided one day that you were only going to sell high end? Is that how that happened? Or was it more of a natural progression?
Oh, so great question. So I started in entry-level housing. So for the first 7 years, I started in a city called Canoga Park. That was my marketing area. It was the first home I ever sold. And my average sales price was under $200,000. And I did that for about 7 years. But after a few years, I quickly became, without sounding like arrogant or anything, but I became the top guy in the valley that I worked at, in the North San Fernando Valley. And I was doing great, and I was very happy. I bought a home after the 1994 earthquake, remodeled it, and was living great. Then I got referred to my first professional athlete, and he said to me, "Hey, man, just signed with the Philadelphia 76ers." And he said, "Hey, man, why don't we look in Westlake Village? I think there's some guard-gated communities there." And I said, "Oh, man, some amazing guard-gated communities." I didn't even know where Westlake was. That's a true story because it was before the internet. So I quickly researched and went out to Westlake, and I looked around and fell in love with the area myself. And I met the realtors that were selling $1 million homes. And I did that deal with the athlete, and it was like $1,550,000. And that was the first time I'd ever even been in $1 million home. And I did that, and I got that big paycheck. It was like winning the lottery. But what happened was I met all the realtors that were selling the $1 million homes, and I didn't think they were any better than me. I just thought that they were in a position to sell the $1 million plus homes, and I wasn't, because I was in an area that $1 million homes didn't exist. So I packed up my family, my wife, my son was little at the time, and we literally moved to Westlake Village, to a city called Oak Park, and started, which is right next to Westlake, and started over. So I gave up a successful business in the Valley and just switched over to the luxury market because I had confidence in myself.
Interesting. That's such an amazing story. And how long do you think that it took for you to start getting traction in that new marketplace?
Quick, because I worked my ass off at it, right? So now I pack up and I move, and I sold my home in the Valley, so I had a little bit of money, and I bought a new home, but not enough to survive very long. So I went to work really hard. So I picked my geographical farm, I maxed out my credit card, and I started hitting that area, not door knocking. I don't like the door knock. So I started hitting that area hard with mail, some very unique marketing pieces to open up the door. And Megan, I talk about this a lot. It's in my book. The most important skill set that a real estate agent can have, in my very humble opinion, is the ability to interview for a listing and win every time. So all the social media and all that stuff is all good and dandy. But if you don't have the ability to compete against other realtors in a listing interview situation, you're going to struggle, and you're not going to have much of a predictable business. So I was very armed with a great listing presentation that I brought over with me, because I was doing a lot of expireds and all that kind of stuff. So I was going on listing appointments every day. So I knew that if I invest a lot in mail and marketing, I would get some opportunities, and then I hoped I would win, which I did. So then you get 1, 2, 3, and then it kind of snowballs from there. And I tried to take every listing that I had and make them into 2 or 3 with proper marketing and proper mail and testimonials, all that good stuff. And it's been a good run ever since. So I've been out here now for about, I think, 27 years. I've been doing this for like 33 or 34 years.
Amazing. And I know throughout the book, that's what you're really talking about, is the listing presentation and meeting with the clients. And when you first moved to this new area, was there any type of angle that you were taking to win over that business? Because there were already very successful real estate agents that were in that area.
Yep. So when I moved over, I was, at that time, it was a company nobody ever heard of. I truly believe the company doesn't really matter so much. It's the agent. I don't know what company you're with, Megan. Doesn't matter, right? So it's more of the agent's job to build their own name versus just depending on the company and the corporate name. So I came over. It was a small little one single office called Todd Olson, and then he opened me up my own little office. So for the first 3 or 4 years, I didn't have an assistant or a receptionist. I had a teeny little office, and I just worked by myself. And then to answer your question, I asked that one sale I did with the one athlete, I said, can you collect the mail that you're getting from all the other brokers? I didn't know anybody. I didn't know any of the brokers.
Yeah.
And he did. And I took all those marketing pieces, and then I met with a printer, and I put them out, and I said, I want to do bigger, better, way better quality, more of it, bigger, harder to throw away from a mailbox. And my thought was, you send out enough unique pieces, a little bit of different, a little bit of twist. At some point, you're going to get the attention of homeowners. And my whole marketing ploy is interview Jordan Cohen. You'll be glad you did. So I always say in every mail, serious about selling, interview Jordan Cohen. You'll be glad you did. I never asked for the listing. I just want the opportunity to interview for the job. In fact, I think I might even have something. Like, this is a just sold little mailer, but if you'll see it says, serious about selling, interview Jordan Cohen. You'll be glad you did. So I send that. I don't put my picture on anything. And I send that out to as many homeowners and to the marketing area that I hit often, which is 3 different areas, about 1,500 homes. And I'm, fortunately for me, I get the most amount of opportunities.
Amazing. And you talk a lot in your book about gratitude and reminding your clients how grateful you are for the opportunities that you've worked for, but are also presented with. And I think that's very important for anything that you do in life to remember just to be grateful. But I think that was like a really great point in your book.
Yeah, every day. So every opportunity, I say the same thing. I recognize, I cringe a little bit when I hear a realtor say, I want to work with you. I want to work with you. I never say that. I say, I want to work for you. Like, I'm grateful for the opportunity to work for you because we do work for them. They're hiring us to do a job. So every text, like even before I go on an interview, I say, thanks for the opportunity to interview for the job to work for you. Then when I get the listing, thanks for the opportunity to really roll up my sleeves and go to work for you. I appreciate the opportunity. And then when I sell it, thanks again for the opportunity to sell your home. I'm forever grateful, all that kind of stuff, because I am grateful for that because they pay me a lot of money to do a job. And I'm grateful for those opportunities.
And you had mentioned whenever you had first started, well, not first started, but you moved to the $1 million price point. Should I share with our listeners now, like what price ranges you're working within?
At that time or
Now?
today? Oh, now, I have listings anywhere from, I think my lowest one, I have an escrow for 1.7. And then I have a $39.9 million listing right now. So I don't judge them by the price. Every sale is a good sale. I'm just in a position where the homeowners that live in the areas I work are more expensive. So I won't walk from $1 million listing by any means, but I prefer the 5 or 6 million because that's kind of the sweet spot in my area. But I have 7, 10. I have some good escrows going right now. So
That's amazing. And a question that I have is, were you hammering the phones too? Were you doing cold calls or were you mostly mailing and building relationships?
Before I moved out here to the higher end market, when I was in my entry level, I was on the phones all day, every day. And then I got to a point and I was listing anywhere from 10 to 25 listings a month, expired listings, cold calling around just solds. I was a beast when it came to that. And my prices would go anywhere from, 100 grand to like 400 grand. And I was on the phones all day. And I got to a point where I hired 2 telemarketers. That one kid was selling me popcorn at the movie theater. I'll never forget his name was Rafi. And when I said I'll have a small popcorn, he goes, for 25 cents more, you can get a medium. I go, no, I'm not that hungry. He goes, how can you walk away from more popcorn for just 25 cents? And I go, dude, how much are you making right now? I'd like to pay him more. So he was one guy. And then my escrow officer's daughter, I would pay them to come in from 5 to 7 and just cold call, just scripts and dialogues. And then I'd come in the next morning and have a stack of leads and follow up. And I worked expired. And every home I sold, I call everybody, just sold the home around the corner from me, all this, the same stuff we all do. And that was good. When I moved into the luxury end, no door knocking. And I know people are going to go, door knocking works for me. It just wasn't my thing, right? I don't like interrupting people dinner, lunch, or watching a movie. I don't like to be interrupted. So I didn't like interrupting other people, right? So I don't do that. I never cold called in the higher end market. I just did print marketing in the areas that I knew people actually read those magazines and a really high end print. And then I did a whole lot of direct mail and I invested. Just like I always say, I never spend a nickel, I invest. So I invested a lot of money just to get in front of people. Because the way I look at it, if you list and sell one home that you wouldn't have before, it's worth all the marketing dollars you can get because we get paid really well per transaction, especially in the multi-million-dollar deal.
Correct.
So I invest in myself.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with that more. And I think it's great for agents to hear that too. And, with my team, we're always talking about, okay, when you close a deal, what percentage of that is going to go back into your business? You always have to be reinvesting. And I'd like to go a little deeper with, you've been so successful and have achieved so much. If you could pick maybe a couple traits or a couple habits that you do daily, weekly, or annually, is there anything specific that you feel like has really helped you take things to the next level?
Oh boy, that's a good question. I don't really have like a daily habit, to be honest with you, Megan. I do what I need to do, and I'm a very driven guy. So I'm competitive. So I love being number one in my county, in my company I work for. And that drives me to no end. That's what keeps me up at night, is knowing to be up there. And the pay is really well too. That's a benefit of it, obviously. Um, but I'm at the stage of my career after this many years that anytime I can get off is a win for me, right? So I'm not, like if I don't have any showings like at 3 o'clock, I'm not going to cold call or prospect. I'm going to go to the gym or do whatever I want to do at that time. So I'm probably not a good one for your podcast when it comes to that, because I'm not going to say, oh, I do, affirmations and, I drink green juice and I look in the mirror and I have a vision board. I don't do any vision boards, nothing like that. I just do what I got to do to do as good as I can.
But, consistency across our guests so far has been just what you said. I mean, putting in the work consistently over and over and over again and so many hours, and it's cumulative. Now, have you ever gotten to a point where you feel like, and it might not be now, it might have been years ago, where you're like, man, I am giving it my all and I'm not sure how much longer I can keep going? Have you gotten to that point? And if you have, do you just mentally push through it, or do you try to give yourself a little bit of a break?
Well, I'm brutally honest. I haven't gotten to that point yet. When you're at the top of your game, I would say confidence is very contagious, right? You have to be confident in yourself. And when you're a top guy in your area or top gal in your area, you get more respect from sellers versus if you're not really, you know what I mean? So I pick and choose who I work for at this point of my life. If I don't, necessarily like somebody at this stage of my life, I'm not going to take the listing. I don't want to, have to communicate with somebody every day that has never been a boss before. Now they're going to want to be authoritative with me. So that's not, whereas in the old days, I would have done whatever I had to do. So now I don't, I'm more selective. I don't remember the question. Remind me of the question. Knowing that
the question is if you ever felt like you were getting close to burnout, but I think the short answer was you don't really feel like you've gotten close to burnout.
Well, I've been doing this 34 years full time every day. I show my own listings. I don't have a team. I don't have showing agents. So yeah, I'm burned out. I'm going to Africa October 3rd. I can't wait. I'm going to be gone for 10 days in a whole nother time zone. So when I come back after that trip, I'll be refreshed. But yeah, today it's, I'm a little burned out. I ain't going to lie about that. So yeah, it's hard when you do this every day. So one of the things that I did and still do that made me, I hate saying successful or whatever, but that makes me very productive, is I show all my listings myself. There's a lot of advantages to that. And I'll tell you my advantage. I call it building your business. Okay. So if I have some listings that my assistants could show, right? But I try to make it a point to show it myself because I'm better at it. I know how to overcome objections, and I'm more credible. So I can help justify a sales price. And the buyers at this point are going to respect me. Their agents are going to respect me. So when I'm selling the house and talking about why it's priced right, it's very credible. But I'm very humble about it. So the first thing I say is, boy, your realtor is amazing. The communication's been great. I always compliment the other realtor because that's the classy thing to do. Usually the other realtor will say, thank you for saying that, Jordan. That's awesome, right? And then, but there's other reasons for that. It warms up the showing, right? Everything is nice and friendly. I compliment the broker. I'm credible when I do the showing, but there's a little element of business building, career building. So I'm sure you've done this yourself, Megan, where you sell a home and they're represented by another broker, especially in today's internet society. Sometimes the buyers meet their own realtor at the showing for the first time.
Yes.
They got them from Zillow Lead or whatever. It's a family friend or works out of the area that you're just trying to get the commission. Well, if I'm at that showing and I'm doing a phenomenal job in 2 years, 3 years, however long it takes, when those people go to sell, they're calling me.
They're calling you.
I literally have 4 listings right now, including I'm about to list a giant one where I didn't represent the buyers. And the other brokers, they move out of state, they retire, whatever the situation is. But those people remember me as the great agent that showed the home properly. If I had my assistant doing all those showings, I wouldn't have as many deals as I have today. So that's just called outworking everybody. So a lot of agents that sell as much as I do, they have showing agents. I get that. It's more free time to do whatever else you're doing. I just make the decision to try to show my listings myself. I think it really gives me a better chance to sell those homes. And Megan, I say this every day. I only get paid when I sell it, not when I list it. So I tell my sellers that I'm going to work my ass off because I only get paid when I sell it, not when I list it. Realtors celebrate listings. I don't. It just means I'm time to go to work. Roll up my sleeves and go to work. I'll celebrate when I sell it.
So true.
So I say
so true.
And homeowners respect that. I said, let me guess. Other realtors are going to be super excited to list your home. That's not me. I'm happy for the opportunity to sell your home. So by listing it with me, you're giving me an opportunity to get paid. And that's what I'm looking to do. So I think it's true. It's factual. And
man, it's just so great to listen to you and to hear some of your story, because you are just so incredible of like, keep going, right? And I think that it inspires a lot of people, because I do believe with agents, and I work with a lot of agents, obviously, sometimes the mindset can, kind of be shifted, or maybe agents might feel a little down. But I mean, really, if you put in the work and you stay consistent, you can't lose. I mean, that's my opinion. You can't lose if you're really putting in the work and staying consistent.
I agree with you. And so a lot of people say, but what work can I put in? Because everybody that gets into real estate, Megan, they call me, they DM me, they say to me, I want to be rich. I want to make $1 million a year, $5 million a year. I want to do it. Everybody wants to do that, right? Who doesn't? Nobody comes into real estate and says, I really only want to sell one home every 5 years and go into bankruptcy, right? So everybody really wants to. So the most important thing, and my recommendation to a realtor, when you have time, don't waste that time. Practice your listing presentation, because if you're really skilled at that, and I mean, you can't wait to walk into a room, compete against Megan or Jordan or me, and compete and win like you think you can win, it will lead to more presentations. For example, once I got my shit down, man, where I was like, I'm not losing to anybody. If I was on the phone with somebody and I would say, oh, are you going to be selling your home before you buy? Are you going to buy before you sell? And they would say, oh, no, we're gonna sell before we buy, whatever their answer was. And I'd say, great, are you going to be interviewing agents for the job of doing so? And if they would say, well, we're kind of already committed, to Megan, she's really nice, and we met her, so kind of committed, I would push hard for the interview. I still do.
Yeah, just interview. Just give me the interview.
Yeah, but if I don't have a great presentation, you know what my answer would be? Okay, good luck. If it doesn't go well, call me. Because if you don't have a great presentation, what are you going to say when you get that interview? Why push to get the interview if you don't have a great presentation? So if I had a team and I don't have one, I would have my teammates role playing their presentation every fucking day. Because once you have that, I guarantee you'll have more interviews to go on. So that would never be a waste.
And with your listing presentation and like your listing package, and I know you talk about it a lot in your book, I believe a lot of it does focus on your marketing, and it focuses on like how you have the best photos and how you choose the best photos that are going to go on the marketing. Is there anything else that you would want to add for listeners that you feel like are really key points for listing presentations?
Oh, there's a million things. So there are countless things that I have that I'll bring up if I feel I need it. I always know I give a great presentation when they're just kind of staring at me. And then at the end, when I say, do you have any questions? And they say, nope, you answered all of them. And I say, great. And then I know, are you as confident in me as I'm in myself that I'm the right agent for you? Like that's a kind of one of my opening things. They go, sir, thanks again for the opportunity to interview for the job. I really appreciate this. I really would be excited to work for you. But right now, what we're going to do now is an interview, I say. Just like any other job, I go, sir, I'm going to assume you've either interviewed for a job yourself or you've interviewed other people. Fair statement? And I shake my head, yes. And I say, yes. And I say, fantastic. So in a short window of time, 30 minutes to an hour, I have to put my best foot forward. Is that okay? And they say, yes. I say, great. So some things I say, I just know that I have a short window of time to have you be as confident in me as I am in myself, that I'm the best agent for you, that I'm going to maximize the exposure of your home and sell your home for more money. And then depending how arrogant I feel at that moment, I'll even say, Megan, I'm a value add. I know that, and I'm going to convince you of that. When I say I'm a value add, the realtor that can expose your home to the most amount of people is a value add, because you never know if the one buyer that's willing to pay your price or more, where they're coming from. It could be from Florida, relocating with Amgen. It could be the neighbor next door. Who knows? Nobody knows. But the realtor that can expose it, strategically and skillfully position your home in the right way, and then expose it to the most amount of people. And then at the end of the day, who you have the most confidence in and working for you. I just say all that kind of stuff, and I believe it. And then I go. But they feel the confidence.
They feel the energy, I feel like. I mean, at least I know, in my business, it's a lot of energy. They feel the energy of it.
Yeah, for sure. But they hear it's what I say. So I get asked, man, no bullshit, like almost every day. Can you send me your present? There's nothing to send. It's what I say with everything. Like what you brought up, photography. Everybody does photography, right? So I love it when I hear this and I say, Mr. Seller, let me just talk a little bit about photography. I'm going to hire a professional photographer. We're going to come out. We're going to shoot it at dusk because your home's going to explode. It's going to explode off cell phones on Instagram. It's going to explode off the internet. So it's my job as an expert in real estate to have your home shot professionally at dusk. We'll shoot it before the sun goes down, as it's going down, again after, to get the very best photos. I know what photos work, what don't. So I'm going to make sure one of your photos isn't going to be a crowded closet or a bathroom where the toilet's right next to the shower. So I'm going to position, I'd rather have 20 amazing photos than 100 shitty ones. And let me tell you why. I'm not going to sell your home for the photos, but my job from strategically curating the best photos is to get somebody excited to come see your home in person. And that's what I'm going to do, what you're paying me to do, which is to sell your home. So it's all that. So just saying that sure beats somebody walking in and going, I'm going to have your home professionally photographed. So I just sounded really good with the photos. So it's little things like that it's just talking about everything you're going to do. Now, I say that like that because I've said it 1,000 times, but it's a learnable thing to say.
But it's so true about the photos. I mean, I know for myself and my team, like I get obsessive over the photos and preparing the house. And just like you said, explaining to the sellers, I don't want every single angle of the house. For me personally, like I don't want 3D Matterport because I want to get them in the door. I need to get them in the house. I need to get them in front of us to sell the experience, to sell the house. So I think that's a really good point. And while we're on this subject, I want to switch a little bit over to do you have work-life balance, or what has that looked like over the years?
Yeah. Well, my kids and my wife will probably tell you not as much as I should, but I'm balancing a lot better now. Now, when I was young, no, I didn't have much, but no, I can't say that either. When my son was playing football, basketball, lacrosse, baseball, I never missed a practice or a game. So, so this was my strategy. I was smart enough at a young age to realize this. When I was young, before my kids started doing activities like that, before I even had kids, I knew I was going to work my ass off 7 days a week, save as much money as I can, because then when my kids started to do stuff, I knew I would take a back seat and work. So actually I did have balance. So during those years, about 10 years, I made less money than I did in the beginning because I didn't work as many hours, but I did it strategically.
Interesting.
So now, and I always knew that once my kids were in college or out of college, then I was going to give it another 10 to 15 years to set myself up to live the latter part of my life the exact way I want it to be. And I'm in that stage now. So I have a few more years at this torrid pace to where someday I'm chilling, doing whatever I want to do.
That's incredible. And I think this is one of the first times that I've heard actually someone state, hey, I pretty much essentially took some personal time that I knew, like for my family, for my kids, to be able to really enjoy that time. Because essentially, for what I'm hearing is it's like, real estate's always going to be there. And you had put in the work before, you had taken that time for yourself and your family. And like, thank you so much for sharing that, because I think that's amazing.
Yeah, I told my wife, I go, for those first 7 years, I didn't take a day off. I was doing open houses every weekend, working Monday through Friday. But then when my kids were born, I took a lot of time off. I was done by 3:00. My son had a baseball practice. I coached. So if my son had a practice at 3:00, I was out. For those first 7 years, I knew I wanted to be a great dad. And I wanted to coach every sport and never miss a school play. And in our work, in order to do that, you have to sacrifice. You have to sacrifice sales and income. Unless you have a team, then you can have other people doing it. And I never had a team. At that time, I didn't have an assistant either. So I knew I was going to lose some business later in life. So I worked really hard for 7 years, saved some good money. And then those other 7 years, I made enough money to live good, like go to Hawaii, because I never lost a listing appointment, very rarely. So I would take advantage of every opportunity, right? So I was selling, earning a good living, living in a good home, going on great vacations, but I didn't save as much I'm brutally honest, as you can tell. So I didn't save as much during that 10-year span as
you were living.
Yeah. Like right now, I'm killing it and I'm doing great and I'm saving. It's good. And there you go. But I try to take Sundays off if I can.
Yeah, really. Sunday fun day.
Yeah, it's football season, so I don't want to miss football. So I love it. But if I have to work, I do. If I have a showing, I do.
That's amazing. And then is there anything in particular that you're looking forward to moving forward? You had mentioned that, with due time, that it might be time for like the next chapter. And what does that look like to you? Do you think that you'd miss selling these houses, or what do you think that looks like?
My later game, purely in real estate, my later game will be really selective who I work for. It would be like, I'll never say no to, a Vanessa Bryant or an Anthony Davis, like my great, or a Sylvester Stallone, like great clients that I have. I'll never say I'm done. I'm not going to, list your home today. So I'll never do that. So I always have an assistant, like always, and do that. But I hope to get to a point not too far off in the distance where, I don't have 15 listings running around showing property. Just kind of like really cool people. I'd make a lot less money, but I'm okay with that because, I've done well.
Maybe go on a couple more safaris.
Yeah, I do that. I try to go every year. So yeah, Africa is my spot.
I know. I'm so excited for you. You're going soon, right?
In next month, I'm going for
amazing.
Yeah, that's why I love it so much. A, I dig nature. B, I love animals. And C, is when you tell a client I'm in Africa on a safari, everybody kind of gets that. Like, whoa, okay, cool. Versus I'm in Hawaii, then it does. Nobody respects it as much. And the time frame. So I could be on a game drive in the middle of a pride of lions at 11 o'clock in the morning, but it's 3 a.m. where I live, so my phones don't ring. So I love that time change. It really lets me unwind. That's where you see all these photos behind me.
I know, I see that. I love that. That's your passion, the safaris and real estate. And I just love how you shared with the audience about the kind of like the natural progression throughout life, right? So like whenever you had the kids and now as you move to the next phase. And then if you could give, aside from the listing presentation and what you talk about in the book, if you could give agents advice on their real estate career, let's say that they're taking over a new market, or let's say that they are pushing new price points, what would you tell them?
Take a geographical farm. I know, I guess I'm not a trainer, but I know there's some trainers that say don't do that. To me, it's the best thing you could do because you're going to invest some money to become a household name in that area. But once you are, then your phone rings. I could look down on my phone right now and I might have a call from a seller calling me. I've been getting your mail for years. We're going to be selling our home. We'd like to interview you, that kind of a thing. So that doesn't come if you don't have, a household name in an area. And then once that becomes, usually takes about a year because I help some other agents. Then there's nothing better than that when that year goes by and they've gotten maybe 15 or 20 or 25 mailers. And then all of a sudden the phone rings. And then you get 1 and 2 and 3. And it's kind of cool. That's how you build a career. So I would say pick a geographical area that is not dominated by one agent. In other words, if you study it and you pick one area that's dominated by a Megan or a Jordan, and or there's an area where I work that's dominated by 2 great agents named Nikki and Karen, it's probably not a good idea to go into that area because it'll take longer. I'm not saying don't try, but you got to really bring your A game with marketing pieces.
Yes.
So you could pick an area in any city that I'm sure if you looked at the last 20 sales, there's like 2 from one agent, maybe 1 or 2, not dominated. So those are the best areas to go in and dominate.
Yeah, I love that. I share that with my agents too, that we take a look for farm areas and exactly what you said. Like for Fort Lauderdale, like an area, for example, like, listen, you can farm Las Olas Isles, but if you pick maybe a different area outside of that, you're going to see a significant ROI. The other one, I mean, I think for like Los Olas Isles in our area, that's like the higher end area, I always found relationships. Like I'm getting in there and I'm doing top sales from relationships and marketing, but a lot of it came from relationships and it just takes time.
Yeah, and those are all great. I look at relationship deals, bonus. Again, for me, I'm very lucky. I have great relationships, sports agents, business managers. I work to get those, and so those are great calls. They're more fun than doctor or lawyer. So those are I work very hard to get those relationships. So anything's possible.
The last question that I have for you, and I'll let you go, and thank you for being so generous with your time, is throughout the years, have you had any mentors or anyone close to you that you feel like has really helped your life and your career?
Well, my dad, my mom, my mom passed about a year ago. So obviously that was great. In the real estate world, well, not really. I mean, my parents were realtors, but they didn't do very well at it. They were kind of like, in fact, I think, okay, so my advice is not to ask every realtor for advice because if they're not crushing it, it's probably, so it took me in the first year, I learned a lot of bad habits because I was told, spend these days, go on caravan, sit open houses. And I was given language that wasn't really productive. So I started finding my own groove once I started creating my own stuff and thinking of my own language and practicing it every day. So it came out good. So, in the very beginning, I went to a bunch of seminars. And if I got one line, it was productive. But none of those seminars, I don't do any of that stuff today.
Yeah.
So I didn't really have a mentor, so to speak.
Well, I mean, you're just an animal, Jordan. You're just going out there and executing and executing. And I would say that from, an outsider's perspective as well, and something that someone taught me is that there are times in life where you don't always take the logical advice from someone that has done it. Sometimes you just need to trust your own intuition and trust yourself. And back to your point of having confidence, right? Having confidence in yourself and what you're capable of.
Yeah, but confidence came from a whole lot of repetition, right? And then, confidence is contagious. My clients are going to feel it. whether I'm with a buyer and I'm telling them it's a great buy, and this is why, they're going to feel that confidence. And excitement is contagious. So, and I know that's not always easy to be excited every day. So it's you try to be, but the confidence will lead to excitement. It's all a whole thing. But there's interesting. Real estate is very skill oriented. I don't think that's taught to newer and young realtors as much as, social media and all that. All that is great stuff, but is that give you the necessary? It could lead to listings, no question about it. So I double-ended one for $18 million straight from my Instagram. So it's great. It's great marketing to market the home if you use the language properly. But get back some of the old school skill sets is predictable to earn a good living. At least it has for me. I'm not really in tune with all the current stuff, to be honest with you.
Well, it's sometimes as simple too as back to the basics. And like you'd said, repetitions, just like if there's someone that's an athlete, right? What are they doing every day? They're training, repetition, one after the other. So I think
the other thing I say is if you are competing against another agent or two, learn exactly what they're doing. If you get a listing and they interviewed those agents, ask your seller, what did the other agents say that was good? What did you like what I said that made you choose me over them? Because the more you can know your competitors, who are colleagues and friends, make no mistake, I'm friends with my competitors, or so to speak, right? But I pretty much want to know everything they're doing and saying so I can do it better. Because at the end of the day, only one of us is going to get that listing.
That's so true.
And I'm friends with everybody, but I'd rather win and still be friends than lose and be friends. Someone's going to make 50 or 100 grand. I hope it's me.
No, I like that. I think it's important, agent relationships, right? I mean, in my industry, business, we're competitors, but also those relationships are really important. And two, if you're not up against them in a listing presentation, at the end of the day, you're working with them to get deals done if they're bringing buyers or vice versa. Yeah.
There you go.
Jordan, thank you
Megan,
so much.
I deal with you in Florida. I hope we do a transaction someday, or I could refer you business. It would be fun to do that. So there you go.
You gotta come. You gotta come down and visit. I wasn't able to get you whenever I was in California, but when you're in South Florida, I hope to hear from you.
I hope so too, Megan. It'd be awesome.
Amazing, well, listen, Jordan. I appreciate your time.
All the agents that listen to you as they should. You're a successful realtor. Thank you for tuning in and spending a little bit of time with me and Megan. I appreciate it. For sincerely appreciate it. So thank you.
Amazing. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in to Finding Alignment. If you found this episode helpful, please like and subscribe. I would love if you could leave me a review. And if there's anyone that you would like to hear from on the show, please let us know. Thanks for tuning in.